and that was formed by the father of trade unionism in Guyana, Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow, is now a captured union in the hands of one Carville Duncan on Labor Day that saw several trainee nurses outside there waiting to go into this brunch because the gates apparently were locked. It didn't start yet, but they had to, because on interview they said they had to turn up to the brunch. That is what Labour has turned to now. This Mr. Carville Duncan made a most astonishing statement. This Mr. Carville Duncan, who is chairman of FITUG, who is president of Critchlow's union, Guyana Labor Union, is quoted as saying, quote, on behalf of the trade union movement, let me say this, Comrade Ali, referring to the President of the Republic, Comrade Ali, if you had a chance to run again, you will have the trade union support. They go there, they receive, and they are happy because they have sold out their membership in return for a mess of pottage. And ain't the first time it happened. We see you, Carville Duncan. You took the BGLU with now the GLU and turn it into a pussycat union, a government union. None of y'all unions, none on Labor Day address the important things that are supposed to be in front of you. The same stale things, return of collective bargaining, cost of living, and all this kind of thing. Where was the meaningful approach of how you're going to be dealing with these things going forward? Cost of living killing people right now. But when the rice farmer, many of them too marginal to survive under the present circumstances, they tell the government we can't take that price. The government runs in and sets aside $3 billion. Where did they get that money from? They didn't go to Parliament to get it. But you know where they get it from? There is a $9 billion set aside for cost of living. This the third or fourth year they have done that, an omnibus item called cost of living measures. And they've taken $3 billion and given to one tiny group called rice farmers. But your thousands of workers in the public service and the other public sector, they're getting white mouth because they don't have the representation from the unions who get in their monthly money taken out of their salary and given to these people who dare cheerleading the president and the government instead of representing their workers. You know the suffering that people are going through here. You know the sufferings, but you got them going there genuflecting to the government. Genuflecting to the government. And my goodness, it got to always be somebody who looks like me. But you ever spare a thought that Arrival Day has a dark side to it also? It is the day when the Africans should be crying tears. It's not a joy for Africans, generally, even though, contrary to what people think, it is Africans also who were the force indentured laborers. Not Portuguese, not Chinese, not Indian, it was Africans.
Manners and respect to Mr. Winston Jordan. You is a great man to the Guyanese citizen. As a minister to the South America land called Guyana. So much negative, so much propaganda. The PPP are trying to tell upon you, but keep speaking the truth. The truth is always there forever. The best finance minister I ever seen in Guyana. Oh yeah, Lord, please guide and protect him each and every day. He is full of knowledge and experience and things that going on in this country. Jordan is a cool and humble man. He educate and dedicate to the society. Over 30 years he give to we in this ministry. Yeah, yeah. Jordan is for all. Lord, know you will always stand tall. Yeah. Oh yeah. I am a Guyanese citizen. I never meet you and I never talk to you, but for you good works you have done for this country. I'm singing this song to you, Mr. Winston Jordan. We as Guyanese citizens saying we love you. Yes, we love you. Lord, let no weapon that come against him shall prosper. Lord, you is the God from heaven. You is the God from heaven. Oh, honors and respect to Mr. Winston Jordan. Guyanese, we love you, Winston Jordan. Yeah, yeah.
All right. So Labor Day was last week. The force, it's come and it's gone. And for me, it's no secret in terms of what we said it was going to be. All right? It was the usual early morning marches. It was the usual early morning marches, dressed up in your red and white or your red and black, right? Singing of solidarity forever. And then they repaired to their different places to hear the same old stale speeches, going through the motion, right? And you sit down and you drink the couple free beers and eat the couple food and knock couple dominoes, and then you head home or head to wherever else you wanted to. You know? So it is unfortunate what has happened to Labor Day, and it's unfortunate what is happening to workers in Guyana. In fact, even as we talk about Labor Day, the labor ministry itself is fast becoming irrelevant, if it was relevant at all. You know, one remembers the labor ministry, the active labor ministries under giants like Winslow Carrington and Kenneth Denny and so on, where the labor ministry was a powerful ministry. Today, the labor ministry is either an appendage to some other ministry, or it's one of those ministries where you give a junior minister. He might be called a senior minister, but in the eyes of the pecking order, he's a junior minister. And so they go through the motions down there. The ministry is never really active. It's never really given much prominence. Or whoever goes there never seek to give that ministry the prominence that it deserves, especially today in an economy that is as fast-paced, that has to grapple with things like migrant labor and so on. It has just become a kiss ministry. Yeah, kiss the government ministry, as I would like to say. Now, for a long time, the labor movement has been divided into three umbrellas. An umbrella called FITUG, with the acronym Federation of Independent Trade Unions of Guyana. Independent of whom? You would think it's independent of politics, race, and all this kind of thing. FITUG, okay? But they joined because they wanted to be independent of the then government, when you look and see who are part of FITOG, right? Gau, of course, Nasi, they were never, they can never agree to anything that the Bonham or PNC government got. And joining them was, I believe, was CCW, yes. I don't know if the bauxite unions joined them also at the beginning, FITOG. Okay? But the FITOG of today was not the FITOG that started. Because the FITOG of today that has the GLU, the Guyana Labor Union, was never part of the original FITOG. They were never part of it. That union, which is the oldest union in Guyana, and that was formed by the father of trade unionism in Guyana, Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow, is now a captured union in the hands of one Carville Duncan. And GLU is now part of FITOG. And at a brunch held by Ali on Labor Day, that saw several trainee nurses outside there waiting to go into this brunch because the gates apparently were locked. It didn't start yet, but they had to, because on interview they said they had to turn up to the brunch. That is what Labour has turned to now. That is what Labour has turned to. Turn up at this brunch. This Mr. Carville Duncan made a most astonishing statement. This Mr. Carville Duncan, who is chairman of FITOG, who is president of Critchlow's union, Guyana Labor Union, is quoted as saying, quote, on behalf of the trade union movement, let me say this. Comrade Ali, referring to the President of the Republic, Comrade Ali, if you had a chance to run again, you will have the trade union support. End of quote. End of quote. And he went on to talk glowing things. He knew all the different previous presidents. And President Ali is the one, he plastered it and he put on butter and he put on cheese and everything else, jam and everything else he mixed up there. That Ali is the best president that he thing and so on. Let me tell you something. Whatever Ali is able to offer to trade unions, offer, because they would like to think it's collective bargaining. There's no collective bargaining in this country. They go there, they receive, and they are happy. Because they have sold out their membership in return for a mess of pottage. And ain't the first time it happened. Ain't the first time it happened. Trade union leaders that used to ride bicycle back in the day and commiserate with the workers and so on. They are driving fancy cars today, earning humongous salaries while they feign solidarity with struggling workers. They are earning tremendous salaries and perks and allowances and everything else. Plus, their alignment with the government guarantees them positions on boards where they don't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything on these boards. They just got to turn up, say yes, that's it. And they collect fat allowances, board allowances and board fees and so on. And they may get duty-free offered to them as opposed to the union. So they are plastered. They're fattened to stay quiet. They're fattened to stay quiet. Listen, imagine he is offering up what he don't own. He is offering up the whole of FITUG support to the thing. He does not own FITUG, and not everybody in FITUG is a PPP hack or a PNC hack or a ALP hack or a WIN hack or a FGM hack or whatever the case may be. Not everybody. So how dare you with the audacity to saying that how you offering the union, trade union support? You don't own the trade union, Carvel Duncan. But we see you. We see you. They made you the chairman of the Public Service Commission when we came in, just before we came in. You remember? He was the chairman of the Public Service Commission. He is GLU, but he's chairman of the Public Service Commission. He don't represent the public service, but he's chairman of the Public Service Commission. That is what the previous government, which was the Ramita government, that put he there. When we came in, he had another year and a half or so left on that position. We see you, Carvel Duncan. You took the BGLU, with now the GLU, and turn it into a pussycat union, a government union. All of them. The TUC, on the other hand, a relic of the past. Giants who used to be in the TUC and who sweated, who had to contend with the likes of the Burnhams in negotiations. Skillful they had to be when facing the likes of the Burnhams. Today, the TUC is a shell of itself. A shell. Look who's representing the TUC these days. Look who's president of the TUC. Yeah? Look who's president of the TUC. In fact, I had to go search to find out who's the president of the TUC. Like I said, the only person I know from the TUC is Lincoln Lewis. He's been general secretary for ages. In fact, I think he was general secretary since Paldor gave up the job. But Carvel Duncan is praising Ali as the best president that he had come in contact with because Ali liked the workers and Ali has given things and so on. This man doesn't believe or doesn't know Ali is the first president to have his hands on massive oil revenues. And instead of praising Ali, you should sit down there and do collective bargaining for your workers. That massive sum of money, but you sitting down there and just trapping crumbs. You're not even bargaining, you're just turning up. You're not even bargaining. You're just turning up. And the crumbs that come in your way, you seem to be happy about, rather than meaningful representation of the people whose money you're getting every month. None of y'all unions, none on Labor Day address the important things that are supposed to be in front of you. The same stale things. Return of collective bargaining, cost of living, and all this kind of thing. Where was the meaningful approach of how you're going to be dealing with these things going forward? Cost of living killing people right now. Right now. I didn't have my vehicle yesterday. I had to take a ride into town, take a taxi. A $500 drop is now $1,000. I had to pay that yesterday. $1,000, a pensioner, $1,000. What do you think the ordinary person will have to do? Eh? What should you do? Oil prices have gone up through the roof. Cost of living all over the place, licking up. I, on this program, have suggested that the government pay an interim salary increase. What the hell have you all trade unions have you done? Nothing on Labor Day. No suggestion of paying. No suggestion of paying an interim increase. But all of y'all know that just before the Labor Day, the government announced a $3 billion, once again, $3 billion grant to the rice sector. None of y'all observed that. None of y'all buttered Ali for that announcement, but says we also want an equivalent or greater amount to cushion the effect of the cost of living on our workers. None. None of y'all. None of y'all realize that two sectors in Guyana, rice and sugar, have captured the treasury. As soon as the rice sector starts hemming and hawing, the government runs in. And if it's not free fertilizer, it's free fertilizer plus a grant. Plus a grant to offset the price. So the tail is wagging the dog. Imagine the rice farmer knows the price that he will get before he starts planting. He still goes and plants, and when he's about to reap, he says to the government, listen, I can't, that price there, I can't take. Y'all got to step in and help me. Right? The government has already stepped in with DNI. There is no cost for DNI. They stepped in with transportation. Rice going on the boats are free. Free. Almost everything is free. Almost everything is free. But when the rice farmer, many of them too marginal to survive under the present circumstances, they tell the government we can't take that price. The government runs in and sets aside $3 billion. Where did they get that money from? They didn't go to Parliament to get it. But you know where they get it from? There is a $9 billion set aside for cost of living. This the third or fourth year they have done that, an omnibus item called cost of living measures. And they've taken $3 billion and given to one tiny group called rice farmers. But your thousands of workers in the public service and the other public sector, they're getting white mouth because they don't have the representation from the unions who get in their monthly money taken out of their salary and given to these people who dare cheerleading the president and the government instead of representing their workers. Not even begging for an interim increase for their own workers. They would not even do that. Not even on the thing day, on Labor Day. And us NIS pensioners, look how we're suffering. Yeah? Look how we're suffering. This is the 7th year in which no increase has been given to NIS pensioners above the minimum wage. And many NIS pensioners who are above the minimum wage are now sunk below the minimum wage because of zero increases in NIS pensions for the 7th year. Not one union leader talked about it. Not one. You know the suffering that people are going through here. You know the sufferings. But you got them going there genuflecting to the government. Genuflecting to the government. And my goodness, it got to always be somebody who looks like me who comes up with these statements. It wasn't bad enough that a gentleman talked about Jesus returning and voting for the PPP. You got to get another one who comes in and says, if you had to get a third term, we would highly support you. Like if you own us, like if you own the labor, you could tax everybody. Whether they're PPP, PNC, ALP, whatever. Yeah, we can carry all and bring for you if you were going to get a third term. So labor, it is hurtful and it's hard, unbelievable, unbelievable. And my sentiments are cogently captured in yesterday's editorial of Kaitro News. Kaitro News editorial of 6th of May 2026 with the heading Voice of Labor. Here are some extracts from that editorial. Quote, "It is surprising that Labor Day in Guyana is such a benign affair. It is surprising that the once undying spirit of coffee and Caucillo has not grabbed hold of Guyanese workers and pushed them into a state of restlessness of labor militancy. What has happened to that type of labor leader? Leadership that proudly and boldly identified with the pain of workers and willingly sacrificed their own interests for the betterment of Guyanese workers. When labor leaders get too friendly with, cozy up too much to political schemers, they relinquish all claims as labor leadership and are best seen as labor's villains. Draw them in, incentivize them, and set them against the best interests of their members. Divide the ranks of union leadership and put them against one another. Political leaders and their captive labor leaders celebrate their victories, while Guyanese rank and file workers count their losses and slowly discern that their battles have been lost without a fight." That is what a summary of exactly what has happened to Guyana. A bunch of people calling themselves labor leaders who, not in the spirit of coffee, not in the spirit of Caucillo, not in the spirit of Critchlow, not in the spirit of the fights of the Jagons and the Bornums, ones now who cozy up, get their duty-free concession, get their land, their plot of land, right? Get identified for board membership and so on, while they're fleecing the unions, big fat salaries and allowances, right? They got to get salaries equivalent to at one time it was permanent secretary, but based on what I'm hearing now, it's more like a senior minister. It's more like a senior minister they're carving out these salaries. And while the workers suffer, look at things you have in this country. Minimum wage in Guyana. Minimum wage in Guyana, public minimum wage is 500 US a whole month. Minimum wage a whole month. A whole month, 300 US. Crime is going up. Right? The police statistics say crime going down. But petty crime is going up. Petty and not so petty. Why? Large pools of unemployment. And you could say whatever you want about how they got jobs, the people in one job. People are the concern, it can't pay them. It's the same thing happened when we used to migrate and go and do cheap work and undermine. The undermining of labor, it don't happen today with all these cheap migrants and so on. It happened many, many years ago. We had Arrival Day 2 days ago or so on. But what many people didn't say, everybody look at the joyous part of Arrival Day and so on, which is good, great, and so on. But you ever spare a thought that Arrival Day has a dark side to it also? It is the day when the Africans should be crying tears. It's not a joy for Africans, generally, even though, contrary to what people think, it is Africans also who are the force indentured laborers. Not Portuguese, not Chinese, not Indian, it was Africans. Africans were brought out of Ghana. I think about 400 of them, before they start bringing in Chinese, before they start bringing in Portuguese who couldn't work, then India, then China, and so on. But it's not a day that Africans themselves generally celebrate without feeling a tinge of sadness. Because indentured labor was brought to undercut the Africans' demand for wages that they didn't get for centuries. And then the ultimate of cuts was that when they say they freed us, they wanted 4 more years of free labor that they call apprenticeship. That they're going to apprentice us to do work that we've been doing that we were doing for centuries. How the hell they could help us? And then after we finally come off of that plantation, they then brought labor to undercut our demand now for fair wages. To force us back onto the plantation for next to nothing wages. So while we continue to celebrate Arrival Day and so on and so forth, also spare a thought, particularly Africans, for this particular part of the history that people want to kill. They want to kill. Centuries of free labor, freed, and then afterwards, the ultimate irony, you're not compensated. The planters were compensated 20 million pounds, that is worth billions today. We got nothing, but yet we save our pennies from the little groceries that and the little side groceries and so on that we did. And we carried the wheelbarrow of pennies and bought villages, Northbrook and all these different villages we bought. Huh? But then they're still not satisfied. They come and they flood these villages out. They break the DNA, open the cocos and so on, to flood us out, to force us back onto it. And despite all of that, we still persevered. We still persevered. Yes, Arrival has brought culture and food and all this kind of thing. But the ultimate irony of all this, of that, is that they have this dark side, that labor undercut the Africans, the freed Africans, resulting in many ways in its conditions even today. These are things people don't want to tell you. These are things that people don't want to tell you in the history. They got all these nice things, how many people company, Hesperus and the Whitby and this and that, and all these kinds of stories. So, yeah, that is history in truth. But let us do analysis, not just the number story and so on. Let us do the analysis, the reality of the situation. And you have it happening today again. $3 billion to farmers who knew the price. Not only before, they knew this 6 crops running right now. There's a glut in the world market. Prices are extremely depressed. They're going there, they're being forced to plant more and more. The government doesn't have storage capacity, government doesn't have markets and so on. The farmer is left with all this. And then he goes to the government and says, hey, you got to make up whatever difference in miller, because the miller who are private, you can't force them to pay a price that's not gonna be profitable to them. So the government comes in, takes the treasury's money, taxpayers' money, and bails out the farmer, not one time, not 2 times, many times. And these are things that the unions don't want to talk about. That their people who they are representing are being left further and further behind. They know how their own workers are surviving month to month. Do they? Have they done any study? No, they're too busy. They're too busy genuflecting to the government and making certain that their gravy continues to flow. Everywhere you go in this country, migrant labor is taking over. Even my little grocery shop around the corner, I recognize that, it can't be Guyanese. So I start speaking a little bit of Spanish and so on. And she answered back quickly and so on. And I talked to the owner, and he said, boy, it's a question of we getting labor. We getting labor. And he gave me all these different woes and so on. And I said, you know something? If we continue to go down this route, if the government doesn't step in and understand the labor situation and believe that they're solving it by allowing free migrant labor to come in here, officially and unofficially, to take over jobs that should be given to the burgeoning unemployed Guyanese population, they are going to be sowing a whirlwind that they will desperately should have avoided. Today's papers, you wake up, sand truck, people complaining about Chinese. It's not today they're complaining. But sometimes I tell myself, who they want to complain to? The opposition? You didn't vote for the opposition. I will turn up tomorrow's elections call and vote back the government in place, and then turn to the opposition to come and help you. How the opposition going to help you from level of opposition if they know after a while that all you're doing is coming to me for the help, but you going to vote for the government? You're not voting your interests. You're voting race. You're voting politics. All over the place, the gas stations, the food place, the shops, the construction, everywhere you go, it's a migrant worker. Most likely, a migrant worker who is not legal in Guyana. Legal in the sense is that they're here, the government recognizes they're here, but they didn't come here legally. You come under some guys running from some place and all this kind of story. But the government is not understanding what it is doing. It is creating the conditions for it to reel a whirlwind of chaos in this country. Because if thousands of school leavers can't find a basic job, what's going to happen to them, my friend? What's going to happen? Everybody can't depend on remittances. Everybody can't depend on remittances. And then you say you're training all these people on the gold scholarship and so on. Where are they going when you finish training them? Where are they going? Do you have ways of absorbing them? Huh? Where are they going? This here is not nice. Not nice. Not nice at all, what you see in front. But the unions, look, if they disappear tomorrow, the present ones, not the real unions, if the ones here that keeps genuflecting and keeps submerging the interests of the workers, if they go tomorrow, I'll be happy. I'll be happy. The workers will be happy. The workers will be happy because all of them have only collective bargaining. Some of them even lost the meaning of what is collective bargaining. Are you really bargaining for these workers? What it is that you're bargaining for them? Because as night turned today, every increase in salary that has been gained over the last umpteen years, 30 years or whatever, has really been given. Didn't come out to any collective bargaining. It has been given. And with the exception of the Armstrong Awards, no award has been given to workers through that process. And the government, given its experience, particularly with the Armstrong, is not about to allow you to go back to arbitration. So many of you have given up, thrown up your hands. And unlike the government that has found ways and have used the muscle of the state to suppress unions and stymie them, okay? Because under threats of taking away the checkoff system, some unions make a lot of noise and then they go under. Okay? And when they look at the experience of GPSU under the PNC and under the PPP, when the checkoff system was taken away from them and they lost significant revenue, and now GTU, where the checkoff system has been taken away from them, notwithstanding a court decision that it must be put back in, the government uses its muscle to defang unions. GPSU today is not the GPSU of Daniels and them that had the government of PNC under serious stress. The government over the years since it come in post-1992 has expanded contract employment where you don't have to wait on the Public Service Commission to fire you. You get a contract, you got 1 month's notice of dismissal, you're gone. And then you have to get cause, you're gone. Then the government, after the 1999 strike, they broke up the public service. They pulled out the Georgetown Hospital that carried the strike for most part. They pulled out the deeds registry, right? They created new thing. They created a corporation for Georgetown Public Hospital. They created the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission. They created a deeds registry corporation, right? They created Inland Guyana Revenue Authority, where before you had Inland Revenue and Customs. They created the Guyana Revenue. They pulled all those things out from under the Public Service Commission and controlled now by the government through their board, through their appointed board. All these places are appointed, have appointed government boards with government people, and they can get rid of your thing. Then the government went to court, took the unions to court, and won, quote unquote, won. So there's no longer the agency shop also too. So unions now, they are struggling. And instead of finding creative ways to continue their existence, what do you think they're doing? They decide to join the bandwagon, join the government. Join the government. So the government ain't got nothing to worry about any pussycat union. They don't mind them making a little noise here and there. But when you get militant like a GTU, they're waiting for you. They're waiting for you. Now, I want to see how GTU going to react over the next year or two. I want to see how they're going to react over the next year or two. But the unions, you are going to fall on your own petard if you continue to do it, because people are going to decide, isn't it no sense I paying you because you're not getting any benefit for me. You're not getting any benefit. It's best I bide me time with the government, wherever they want to give me, let it give me. I bide me time, and then shoots, I gone. Because these days, you got workers who want to hang around for 30 years. Labor's extremely migrant these days. And so they don't want to be bound to any government for 30 years, not unless the salary is going to be fancy, the conditions are going to be fancy. They say, man, look, give me a contract. Give me a gratuity every 6 months so I could get me gratuity up front. So even if you were to knock me off after I done serve 10 years and I'm going to lose pension, I will have done collect me gratuity every 6 months. So when you knock me off, I ain't got nothing to lose beyond my reputation. The unions haven't done the analysis and figured out. They need to refocus, reprioritize, and become independent, self-independent. Not self-dependent, self-independent. And like last week I said, some of them got a lot of wasting assets. The buildings that house them, wasting, instead of turning them into some lessons place in the afternoon or some other thing. The grounds that they control, like in the case of GPSU and GTU, growing grass, instead of they thinking about putting some economic activity there. Unions have not learned about, creating buying clubs on behalf of their members, making a raise, investing in stocks and bonds and whatever, and they haven't. In other words, you don't need no financial advisor to help you where that is concerned. If you do need one, your membership, there are people among your membership who can give you that quality advice. But of course, it takes imagination, and it needs a younger caliber of people. Unions are too stereotyped and they're too steep. They're too steep in age to get what I am talking about, too steeped in age. It's time the youths come forward. It's time the youths come forward. It's time we see youthful membership that brings with them their own judgment and so on in pushing the unions forward, if unions are going to survive. Otherwise, they are just going to be another unit that the government feels that they can control or remain at their mercy.